Hey guys, good to see you. Good to see you. Great, and and you're all making major progress, so that is absolutely fantastic. Okay, um, I don't have to stay, and I can see you're all working very hard, and that is so cool, really, and helping each other too, which is fantastic. Yeah. Okay. So I don't have to say. I just wanted to stop by. Actually, you know what? Yeah, a little while ago, I was thinking there was something I wanted to tell you, but I forgot what it is. Um, Maybe I should just let you, carry on with your own conversation, and then if I remember, I can rejoin this meeting. Um, Arnold, do you have any questions for me? Okay. Actually, let me increase the brightness here. Yeah. Okay. So there is this.
Professor, I do have a question, but I'm
Yeah,
not sure if
this sounds
it's
better.
for you or for the other people as well. But
Oh, sure. Mark, you were saying you have a question?
yeah,
Maybe it's for the other people, right? So if it's not
yeah,
for me,
I
yeah,
was just
I'll not
saying,
answer it.
for shark partition, I was trying to do two while loops, and it said it ran out of memory, kind of. So
Yeah,
I
so
tried
that's a
to
bug.
run.
Yeah,
So it's not a
definitely a bug.
bug because it looks like it doesn't run all the way, but maybe because it's calling partition and it's remembering all the parameters. It's
If it ran
maybe
out of
that's why.
memory, yeah, if it ran out of memory, then it's definitely a bug, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. But
Um,
I'm just
so
saying it
Saya
didn't.
posted something about it, just a little while ago.
Mhm.
And and then Ryan said something too. Hey, actually, where's Ryan? Is he here? I don't see him. Okay. He said something about this, and then he sent me email too, saying that he actually dogged this quest, but there is no record. Okay, you guys passed the message on to him, so he's got to email me and do something. But there's absolutely no record. And here is a, sometimes you guys are, questioning without putting a student ID in, or making sure that the student ID has not got any typos in it. And someone emailed me maybe it was 2B, right? Saying, oh, you know what, I've been submitting all along and it's showing up a 0 because it's now I spelled it as student ID instead of student ID, right? But it doesn't show up, NET versus ENT doesn't show up when you look at it. But these are really, really careful. You got to be as careful with your student ID as you are with, with your program, right? So if you miss your student ID, it's a bug. It's a critical bug in the
Right.
program.
I'm
So the
just
best way
saying.
to do is, yeah,
Mhm.
check in the /Q site. And you see, now it's made it into Canvas already. And so, yeah, okay. So if you notice something like that, just be careful and make sure your student ID is in there. Also, the
Uh,
other thing is, if you've been right, okay. So because I know I got to tell this to my 2B students too, right? Sometimes if you've been questioning all along anonymously, and then you've got the solution and you submitted it, and then maybe you got flagged, or maybe you got maybe there was some discussion in which you had to say, I know I've been doing this along for a while. There's no record of it, right? Because all
right.
that shows up in the system is that because I don't catch anonymously flagged data, tag data, right?
Right. I
So it
did
is
have a
true
lot of
anonymous.
like not compiling
Yeah,
because it just ran out of memory, basically.
yeah, that's definitely a bug, Mark. Yeah, you got to get to the bottom of that. Yeah, you
No,
should,
I did. I just said
also show
I
up later
stopped
on if you
using
run it
two
on your own.
loops. I just saying the thing that solved it is stop using two loops and instead use more if and else's instead of two
I
while
don't know.
loops.
There's many ways you can do this, obviously, right?
Yeah, I just wonder if it's because of the while loop or it's probably just a bug. I think you can also do it with two while loops.
Yeah,
I think about it.
no, while loops don't cause. In fact, while loops never cause out of memory, right? Because it just it keeps going on and on. The only thing that could potentially cause out of memory is even if you had a stack overflow, that's not out of memory, right? The stack overflow will basically just overflow the segment and write into some area. Eventually, when the stack and the heap, or and then it'll cause a segmentation violation. Previously, in previous versions of Unix that I'd known, it would actually say stack overflow. But I think nowadays it basically just segmentation violation, whether it's a stack overflow or so. Unchecked recursion, in that sense, is more dangerous than, well, I don't know. I don't know if it's more
Right.
dangerous. It
It's in
Yeah.
a way like recursion, but you're just calling the same function using the while loop. So in a way, it's like recursion. That's why I think that's why it also.
No, it's not. It's not at all. It totally not.
Mm.
If you call the same function repeatedly in a while loop, it is not recursion. A recursion is
It,
when you
it
actually create
doesn't,
an extra
right?
stack frame.
It doesn't keep all the memory, right? Like it,
No,
it doesn't.
yeah,
keep
basically, yeah, that's
the-
right. It doesn't create a new stack frame, in a while loop.
Right.
That's the whole advantage of using. That's why when you use a while loop, you can always, the program can keep running for, millennia. If as long as the CPU is running, it can keep running without, but, otherwise it'll just throw an out of memory error. Yeah, not out of
Yeah.
memory, but segmentation violation. Out
Right.
of
Yeah.
memory is
So,
unlikely. Okay. Yeah,
yeah.
out of
So
memory means
probably
it's
the
a
while
different
was
kind of error.
one.
Yeah. So if any of you are getting that out of memory error, it's a different kind of error. It's not I don't think it's a segmentation violation. It's probably just lots and lots of news happening without deletes and then unchecked news. Lots of unchecked news. I think that even then, I'm really surprised because, these computers have like, 16 gig or 32 gig and 100 gig sometimes. And just running out of memory, even dynamic memory, it's actually very hard. You got to allocate some pretty big ass data structures and fill them up, and even that takes a lot of time. So I think I don't know.
I also wanted to ask if is it okay to ask colleagues like where like how they achieved like the maximum amount of trophies, like what
Yeah,
function they
totally,
did?
totally. And you can ask those on Reddit too. The only thing you can do is share actual code or your pseudocode in such excruciating detail that you actually give away the whole thing. You can share, you can ask
Right.
how many trophies you
Right, but
got.
I can ask like what function did you focus on to get like the rest of the trophies, right?
Yeah, I think it's Yao. Where's Yao? Is Yao? Yeah. You asked that question, right? What to focus on, and I think Divyani or someone answered.
Yeah,
Saying
Ryan and
Ryan. Yeah, you can totally ask.
Oh, yeah.
You can even ask how many trophies, what trophies am I missing? All of that is, fair game, I'm pretty sure.
Right,
And the other thing, yeah. Just don't be like super duper careful because this is really,
Right.
my feeling is that this is actually really fun stuff. Okay. And it's been set up in a way that you can totally, enjoy it. And so because if you're going through a garden with pretty flowers, you got to be a little careful not to step on the flowers. Yes. Because there's going to be people behind you. All right. So you've got this beautiful trail and just treat it like a trail, like they say in this national monuments, take anything that you brought here like that, only footprints or, whatever it is. And so, yeah, just keep that in mind. You'll be clear on what to post, what not to post. It's actually, I think, and even after I stop maintaining the questing server, I'm pretty sure, that occasionally people will use it.
Well, I kind of like
before
asking questions.
Before I forget, okay. One of the reasons maybe that you guys are not posting as much in Reddit is that you're coming up with problems here and getting them solved by your classmates right now, right? And then you've gone away thinking, well, you know what, I've got it fixed. And that's it. And you've lost your opportunity to get participation points. So these meetings don't count for participation points, but these are to help you brainstorm some interesting juice so that you can turn it into a nice post on Reddit. And in fact, like David has this PDF. Actually, where's David? Yeah. So you sent me this email. I just saw the email. So he's got a proof in a PDF. I haven't actually looked at the proof yet. But if it's less than a page, I haven't found a successful way of uploading a PDF. You can do it on LinkedIn, maybe even on Stack Overflow and share a link. But I think on Reddit, what you can do is just a page, try and condense it, maybe make the fonts bigger or something like that. And then take a PNG or a JPEG download. And you can just post it. In fact, in a Reddit post, you can have multiple images too. So they're not just links. You can actually put the image in the post itself. I think that would be much better too, because it'll show up on a phone anywhere, just like, image support is much better than PDF support generally. So try and also I think in many ways, I feel that you can compress images much better than you can compress PDF files these days. The specs are like, I don't know, like 7 or 8 megabytes now. But I remember the very first version of the specs I put together, they were like 300 kilobytes. Okay. And I looked at the side by side and they're exactly the same quality, even the images, which means all the pictures in the PDF that was created like 3 years ago and the pictures they created now embedded in the PDF, they're indistinguishable to me. Even on this monitor, on my Mac, which I'm pretty sure it's not a 4K monitor, but pretty decent resolution on my Mac. Yeah, and I can tell the difference between a spec from 2019 and now. But Adobe says this one has got images at 4K or something like that. So now all the specs are like blown up, like 7 gig and 7 meg and 8 meg. And it's a pain, and I got to go and manually reduce the size. But I figured, let's leave it at this size because people are downloading media these days. So but still, it's nice to have these really thin files, like JSON structures, really tight and compact if you can get them. So that's why I think images, you can compress them. It loads faster on a phone, and interpreters galore. Yeah, highly recommend doing that. Yeah, like this, you can come up with these, you can just talk about ideas here, and even come up with ideas for a group post for 2 or 3 people coming up with an idea, brainstorming it, and maybe even use a Zoom session and capture a video of the 3 guys talking about it, and that could be a program on our nonlinear image channel. Not a program in a TV sense, but that could be a video that we upload for this quarter. Hey, here's a bunch of Sp23 students talking about something interesting, right? Maybe Dylan brings up a music project, okay, and you guys are all interested and work together on it. Maybe that could make a nice little video, right? And we put it on this thing, and so all the scope for these things is a lot of and I actually, last week, we met with our industry and some people from the industry who generally come into Foothill to give us some idea of what is hot and so on. And I think I mentioned to one of them, this is John from Google. I said, when I taught this course, not this course, I taught the cloud course, okay? I taught the course in the evening, okay, 6 to 8 p.m. And the students, every student, right, is basically kick-ass, meaning that, they got a lot of time in doing these things, okay? And I look at the performance of you guys, and you're all doing kick-ass work, okay? But the problem is that you're not consistently doing kick-ass work all the time, okay? Which means that you're all capable of kick-ass work, but your time is being monopolized or being shared from other activities by other activities that also require kick-ass commitment. Right? Because you can't be a rock star programmer and a rock star, painter or something like that, because they're time-consuming activities. So I think, at least at this age, this is what I told. I think it's a cultural issue in the Bay Area, especially. I don't know how Dylan finds it in Tennessee, but I think that there is a pressure on many students to just be overachievers in everything, including things that are not even going to help you right now. So I think the first order of business in life is to just set yourself up to be self-sufficient, right? Earn your bread and butter, and then you can focus on all the art and history and all the other shit you want, right? Because all of that is just frills on the cake. And I think right now everybody is enrolled in APUSH, everything, AP and everything, right? Regardless of whether they're going to, it's going to serve their purpose or not. So I think this thing here, computer science, all these professional fields, they basically have the power to set you up for life and say, now I have the freedom to do whatever the hell I want in my life. Yeah, I have a timeshare even. So pick and choose your courses very carefully and say, well, this is the shortest path in the graph, right? You're going to be doing graph, Dijkstra's algorithm very soon, right? Life essentially is this massive graph, okay? And there is this goal at the end that you're looking for. Right. And I think that if you just look at it and plot the shortest path to it first, and then you can spend all the time refining it and making it more and more optimal. But if you never even find it, you may be going in the wrong directions and you may never end up at the right place. So find the shortest path, set yourself up first. And after that, you can keep refining the rest of it. I think that is my advice. And the reason I'm saying that is because a lot of you guys, I've seen good work from, okay, very good work from. But, the same people I just see just disappear and gone. Okay, this is that doesn't work with computer science. Any creative art requires your 100% engagement, and so if you take it like that and give these courses what they actually deserve in terms of their time, I think you'll all be like rock star programmers by the time. I think anyone who's given their all to this course, all the way from 2A, the blue quests, all the way to the 9th red quest, and aced all the quests, okay? And actually had a good time doing it and enjoying it, and actually, distilling the essential bits out of data structures, is not really knowing how the data structures work. Because, we only taught you a sample of the data structures. Yes, that's not all the data structures there are. So just like when you go to learn music, they're going to teach you all the music in the world. They'll teach you a few select pieces, but the idea is not that you know these particular algorithms or these particular selections, but by going through this path, you would have developed the intuition to find out how any damn thing works. Yeah. And so by focusing on the algorithms and the techniques, hang on one sec, okay? Just need to switch it off.
I got some questions for some people if they're willing to answer them.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, you know what? I don't want to give you a spiel or anything, but that's basically it. Okay. So I can leave it to you guys now. But I say I've seen good performance from all of you guys. Just keep it up. Okay. Keep it up. Go all the way to the red quest, and you'll actually. I think at the end when you do your final report, you should also structure your final report in a way that it is also advice for future students section, right? And then your reflections on the course and what you've done from this, in a way that can help other people. And the reason I say that is because I forgot what the reason was. But anyway, I think that's where I was going. Just give it. Yeah, you'll and make sure. And if you just feel a sense of achievement and pride, I think you will, because everybody who's actually done this class all the way to the end, that's what they tell us, right? If you go and look at the past posts afterwards, you will find. But you will also feel that sense of achievement. I want you guys to feel it. Okay, it's not like I've been through this and I've got this check mark and I'm done. No, it's it's like 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks. That's it, right? And we're done. So, but don't let it be done. Just go all the way and feel that sense of achievement, because you've sunk like $90 into it. It's $10 more, something like that. Okay, so you don't have to give up at this point. Get the juice out of it, and then you'll be much happier. Okay, regardless of a grade. Okay, so I don't know, because a lot of you are missing participation points. Okay, I can tell you that. But you can make up for your quest points by doing the extra credit projects and all these other interesting things. Come up with some kick-ass posts and all of those things. They give you extra credit in many ways. So and keep participating, and don't mistake these meetings to be a substitute for your participation points. Okay, this should just be a starting point for what you're going to do in the credit. Right, that's all. Okay, I didn't mean to talk for so long. Okay, and yeah, right, thank you all so much for your time. Okay, and listening to me ramble on and on. I don't know, if I was a student and I was in your shoes, I would have basically switched off my Zoom and gone. Right. So, but thank you so much for your patience. Okay, putting up with my shit. Okay, but but bottom line is I'm actually happy with what I'm seeing. Okay, even though it is spotty and sporadic, I'm actually happy. Rather than people just coming and going and checking things off, you're seeing. I'm seeing more of a science of engagement. So that is really cool. All right. So and people helping each other. That's also absolutely fantastic. All right. We'll talk about extra credit and all that next week. Or you can just and find a time and set up a time and do that. Right. So unless you have any questions for me, I can take off.
I have a question.
Swethan, you have a question? Okay. Cool.
Two actually. So I saw also on the email there was something about the quest flagging some of the submissions. Is it basically just
so I think what happens is that if there's been multiple 0 submissions, and then that's why there's many factors that considers, even including diff. Do you know about diff, the Unix program diff?
I've heard of it.
There's many things, right? But one of the most common in my decision tree, if you build a decision tree, you find the most entropy point, the highest entropy split. So if I look at the features, I find that the feature with the highest weight is if a quest has been coming in with 0 all a long time, and all of a sudden goes with beyond pub. That has high entropy, meaning that somehow there's no sign of the person actually struggling through the points, but it's not 100% sure, right? Because some quests you may actually have everything working, but maybe you have a constructor block like in hash, right? And nothing is working. When you fix that, everything falls into place. I think even the subsets some algorithm. Yeah, sometimes you do one thing and everything falls into place. So that could also be a reason. But that is one of the key features that requests get flagged for suspicious.
Yeah, because for these ones, there's no feedback. There's just sometimes it's just you have something working or you don't have anything up to that point working.
I don't know. You got to you got to figure this out. Usually, I think it's in the order in which things are talked about in the spec.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Also, my
I'm pretty
second
sure if
question.
you got something, if you got something right, it will tell you for sure. So if you didn't
Okay.
get anything, you didn't get anything right. So that way now you can rule out things and say, I'm going in this particular order.
Also, there's one more question. For the extra credit, when would it be too late to start? Hypothetically, if we
Doesn't
finish.
matter. Right? Doesn't matter. Talk to Oliver. Yeah, when you when you're done. Even now, I think when you close on Quest 9, budget about 2 weeks to be safe on Quest 9. Okay.
Okay.
And also try and look up the max flow and there's many different versions. Some of them are more complicated, right? And so on. I can even do a class on max flow if you guys want. Yeah, a simpler version or things like that, if necessary. I don't think you need it, but if you want, you guys can ask me. But budget 2 weeks for that and getting all the trophies. There's 50 trophies at least. There's more than 50, but you should get at least 50 from quest number 9. But if you feel that you're making good progress, just talk to Oliver and start working on it right away. Right? I think he's working on one. Chris is probably going to join him at some point. I think he expressed an interest. As soon as he's done with his Tesseract movie, right? Now, Chris is going to produce a Stack Overflow post sometime tomorrow or day after, sometime this week. Okay. It's going to be on Stack Overflow and it'll link to maybe a YouTube video with this spinning cube in ASCII. Yeah. And so it's going to have a demo and all, I think. And so when that happens, please, it'll be really, really cool if all of you go and upvote it, okay, and share it on your respective forums, saying, hey, classmate, it's really cool. And so I think I'm definitely planning to do that. Even share it on our Reddit because it's a cool demo, right? An unexpected demo. So I think it'll be very nice. Also for future students, you'll see, hey, there's a past student of 2C who did that, right? So I think it'll be really cool. So all of you, and you're all coming up to the end of 2C, which means you should probably be ready to create your professional profiles at some point. Maybe make a profile on LinkedIn, professional profile, and connect to each other. And also, you can share Chris's post as your first post in your profile too, if you want. Okay, so there's lots of these things, and you can start, community talking to each other at a more on a collaborative level as you pass out of this class. Even though you'll be in different universities, different classes, right? And Dylan's going to be on the road, right? So you can all be connected in some way, okay? And have interesting ideas brew all the time. All right. This is what does it answer your question? All your questions answered?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. No other questions for me? All right. So best of luck, guys.
I have one question.
Yeah, sure, Namita, go ahead.
I was wondering that for when we post on Reddit and if we want to talk about like tips we had or tips we want to share for like a certain quest, is it okay if we reference like a previous post that was made? Like if we saw that post
sure.
after we finished the quest?
As long as it's this quarter. You can refer to a post from unless it's a 2B thing and it was last quarter, that's fine. But if you're for this quarter students, just refer to your own past posts.
Okay.
I think that's
okay, that makes sense. Okay, thank
Andrew,
you.
you had a question too, you said.
I did, but it is quest related, so if you don't want to hang around for that, you don't have to.
All right, I'll take off then. Okay, so you guys can. It's very nice, all of you with your cameras on. Is it's a colorful screen and it's very nice. So thank you all for showing up today.
Oh, I did have a question too. Really quick,
David, you got a question? Yeah.
Yeah. When you're testing for Shark or whatever it was, are you only using ints or are you using other data types as well?
Am I using what? Am I only using what?
Like ints or what? Like I don't know what you're like.
I forgot. Maybe I'm using floats. Is it a template type? The pivoting class, is it a template type?
Yeah, I think it is.
I have to go and check. Maybe I have song entry or something like that.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah, if it's template type, song entry should also work, right?
Yeah.
Because I think if I remember correctly, in one of the previous quests, you got to implement the less than operator for song entry. So
Yeah.
I think it'll work. I don't know. Maybe it's the same, because who cares? If the core, the idea with this quest is not embedding structures and things like that. It is just getting an intuition for how these indices move around. That is the longest. That takes the longest time, I think. So it's better not to distract students and have them thinking about other problems.
Very cool.
All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Okay. Bye.
Okay, sick. I have a big question about the find kth least element. I was going through it last night. I was trying to figure out what the problems are. I have partition working at this point, and I also have qsort working. And I thought I'd have kth least element working because when I was testing it, it worked for me. But whenever I put it into the site, it didn't work. So I figured I'd just try and clarify some big things. Once you go through and find the kth element, I know, of course, you're going to have to move some stuff around inside of the vector that you're working with. Do you have to reset it to the state that it was beforehand?
I didn't know. I think it's supposed to change. Basically, well, I'm trying not to say too much, but if you look at the spec, it kind of reminds me of binary search. Do you remember what binary search is?
Yes.
Right.
And
It's when you
yes, I
cut it in
do
half,
definitely agree
right?
with that. Yeah.
Right. So it's basically that. The only difference is binary search is ascending, but here we don't have to assume it's ascend because we know it's ordered, by the pivot. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The array doesn't have to be completely sorted as long as we have a pivot, and then we apply the same logic. You understand what I mean there?
Yes, but my main question was just the fact
Mm.
that when you do the partition and find the pivot and all the stuff like that,
Right.
of course you're changing some of the spots where values are. Do you have to put
Right.
those values back the way they were, or
I didn't. I just because when you call partition, of course it moves the elements because you're passing reference, right? You're not passing a copy of it. And yeah, so you are gonna move so essentially I'm pretty sure for the kth element, you actually at the end gonna sort the array, if I'm not mistaken. Like it's gonna be no. It's gonna be, some of it is gonna be sorted because you are gonna need to sort some things in order to find the kth element. But how do you say this? It's not exactly like quick sort, it's more like I said, binary search. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And then another thing, the median, to find the median, you just use this function.
yeah,
Does that make sense?
that's what I was going for too.
Right.
But like I said, I did have it put together and I tested it quite a few times on my own, and it seemed to work fine. It worked for vectors of size 1, 2, 3 going up, and when there were duplicates, it seemed to be able to pack them next to each other and differentiate from them fine. It's good to know that it doesn't need to turn it back to how it looked
No.
before it was sorted.
Right. I will maybe check your stopping condition. Are you recursing there?
I am. But
Yeah, so
it does end up stopping when I test it myself.
it does end up stopping.
Yeah, it does. It finds stuff when I test it on my own fine. And also we're not, he did also say we never have to give it a vector of size 0, right? So that's not something we have to care about.
Right. No, that's not the issue. Maybe if you
It could
remember,
be.
it's find kth list element. So maybe if you're, given the higher one, if you have like, you need to give the left one, basically. Did you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you have to give the left one, there's like a check that, and let me read off the quest to make sure, like I'm not saying anything extra, but the quest says, where is it? 1 second. So your partition will divide up the vector around the pivot, and your kth element is certainly located in at most one of them, right? So you will check to see if it's on the left or right, and you will know it because your partition, will sort it basically, right? And
Yeah.
the only thing I will say, think about is you want the left kth. So in some of the conditions, we have to also think about what if my pivot is actually equal to the middle, right? Because that can, to the pivot, I mean, because that can also be a case, right? Well, in that case, you still will have to check the left side because there could be a pivot also on the left side. You understand what I'm saying? You need to return the leftmost element. So it's a bit different than binary search, right? Because it's not exactly, we're not just trying to find an element, we're trying to find like the leftmost part of it. So do you understand what I mean? You need to make sure your conditions account for all the cases. The one where, if it's equal to the middle, you will still have to check the left side because there might be a pivot there, right? You understand what I mean? Or not exactly.
Not fully. Are you saying that if the kth least element that you're looking for is the pivot that you landed on, you'd have to check
Right.
somewhere else because you might find that same element elsewhere? Or
Right. So if you have right. So if you have the pivot, so I assume your pivot, like the algorithm there, like if you give it 2 points, if you have like two twos, right, and you choose 2 as the pivot, then it will be around the same area, right? The 2 twos will be okay. Like they wouldn't
Yeah.
be right to each other, right? Because this part is not sorted. You understand what I mean? 1 second. Let me do something real quick.
There's a simple check for this since you're recursing.
Yeah.
Have you considered what happens if your low and high are the same?
that's the you technically already get that if you have a vector of size 1, right?
I would just recommend double checking if you're accounting for that edge case because that can throw
Double
it
checking
off.
that. What is that? I imagine in that case where your low and high are the same, and the find kth your kth element is in the bounds that you're searching for. In that case, you just return that one element, right?
Here, I'm gonna try to share my screen because I think it will be easier. 1 second.
Is that true? The if your low and high are both the same and your kth is within those, then you give that one element, or you do return default like nothing in that case?
No, you would think about returning that element just because you're not really, if they're the same, you're not really searching anything. There's no real range.
Yeah.
That covers you. I would just check that because that would also cover you on some recursions.
Okay, so do you see my whiteboard?
Yes.
So do you see that this too is the pivot, and to the left of it everything is smaller, but to the right of it everything is bigger? So it depends how you do your pivot, right? I think in the spec you need a specific one, like I don't remember exactly. I think the pivot needs to be on the left side, like if you have another pivot equal to, right? And that depends on your bigger equal to condition. But my point is you can have a pivot here, right? So you can see that the middle is equal to the pivot point, right? But then you can have another pivot, like another number that's equal to the pivot on the left side. So I'm saying you have to find the leftmost element. You understand what I mean? So you can't stop if you found it in the middle. If the pivot is the index, you can't stop. There's only one stopping condition, basically. Do you understand what I mean here better?
I do. Yeah.
So that might be a bug right there, like that specific condition. Maybe you account for it, but I'm just saying it can be a bit tricky because what if you have the same pivot, right?
Yeah, I hear you. No, this is just making me start to think I don't actually know what find kth least element means. I figured that it was supposed to search for at whatever index you have of k. It's supposed to find what element is there in the vector if it was sorted.
Right. And if I would write this sorted, it will be 0, 1, 2, 2, 4, 5, right? And what it's saying
Yeah.
here, you want to return 2, right? Because you want the index of the first 2, not the second 2.
Yeah.
So that's what it means, right?
No, you
that's
want
what I'm
the
saying.
you want the index of the K, of the K index. So it could be the first 2 or it could be the second 2.
Isn't it?
If it
Doesn't it
was
say
if
the
it was
least,
the
though?
if it was the second if it was the second index or the second least index, it would be 2. If it was the third least index, it would be the second 2. That's what the KF is referring to.
Oh, right. So you're saying it's not the least, is whatever the user provides, basically.
It's the least if it was sorted. So the least is referring to you've sorted it in ascending way. So if it wants the 5th least index, then it wants the 5th index as if it were sorted.
Right, but if
Okay.
Like
I have,
second to last place or third to last place, like eighth to
Yeah.
last place.
right,
Okay,
but
yeah.
that's a 2 here. So which 2 will it want if I just do a 2, right? And this is the sorted index right here. This is the sorted array. So I was thinking it will give it this 2, no? That's why, isn't that why it says the least? Because it's the first index, or?
Yeah, but that's if you added 2. If you were asking for the third least index, it'd be the next 2. If you're asking for the first least index, it would be 1. So it's not about what partition you find. It's about continuing to partition until you are left with only that number, based on, like you said, binary ideas
Search.
where
Right.
once
or-
you know whether it's greater or less than your pivot, then you only need to search another half and run it again.
Right. So again, the difference between binary search will assume the array looks like this, right? In our case, we don't assume the array looks like this. We just know that around the pivot, it's sorted, right? To the left of it is smaller, to the right of it is bigger. And that's all you need. You just need to recurse, right? You need to keep making it, keep sorting the smaller and smaller parts until you finally get to like that specific place, if I'm making sense. Right,
Yeah.
you just need to figure out your stopping conditions and making sure, again, if there are 2 elements, which one do I return, right? So I would just be very careful. I will debug and look carefully at like the stopping conditions. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, gotcha.
So I would say the more tricky part is not the stopping condition, is the actual conditions, for me at least, because you need to think, okay, what if there, I have another 2 here on the left side, right? What do I do then? Right, I keep going because there might be another one, basically.
All right, that actually leads me to my other question then. I've noticed with the partition function he had us do, he described it as it should make it so that you have the, you've got your one pivot, everything to the left of it is lesser, everything to the right is greater or equal to. I think it's actually works for both sides on the equal to the pivot thing. But I did the partition function and it works, but Tejas kind of pointed out that after testing it a few times, it'll give you that pivot back, but it's the pivot that it returns back to you is not really sorted properly. Like it still works for some reason, but it's really not guaranteed that what you've got to the left is lesser and what you've got to the right is greater.
Wait, so are you talking about the reference code or your code? I don't think I understand.
The reference
I
code.
actually ran into a similar issue like Tejas bring up. Yeah, like what will happen, like so I was passing the partition function and then I ran into an issue with the find kth least, like you did. And after testing my partition function, like out of like 100 times, like 5 of the times, it wouldn't actually do the last sort, but it would return the right index. So for my find kth element to actually work, I had to go back and like properly like fix my partition function. So it did pass, but there was something wrong with the partition function. So
Yeah,
it might
that's
be.
Maybe
actually
the order you do things.
Huh?
I'm saying maybe the order you do things, right? If you're like, maybe if you switch them too quick, or actually, I'm not sure. But yeah, it might be like, again, It might work on its own, but when you keep calling it might be doing weird things. I'm not sure.
That's the thing, though. My partition function has fully passed all of his tests. As far as he's concerned, that's a correct partition function. But when I tested against what Tejas, like on the Reddit, you can check what Tejas mentions there. The way it is and the way it gets sorted out, its pivot element ends up being 3, but it's got like a 5, like right to the left of it.
Did you have a
And,
picture maybe?
Huh?
Do you have a picture maybe?
I don't have a picture. I can send you the link to that one thing.
Yes, if you can.
Wait, are you referring to your partition function or your quick sort function? Because partition will not sort it by itself. Partition just partitions it around the pivot point. It won't make a perfect sort.
Right, it
Yeah,
will make that the left. I'm sorry,
That
go ahead.
part I do fully get, but I thought partition would do it a little bit more. Like I thought the way it was supposed to work was everything to the left of your pivot would be less than or equal to the pivot, and everything to the right of it would be greater than or equal to.
Right.
But that doesn't fully seem to be the case.
Can
Yeah,
you
so-
send the
Oh
post?
yes. So like this is why like I actually in the find k least element, like it like earlier I checked if k was equal to like what the partition function returned, and then I would return it. But I think that's probably what you're doing, but you can't really do that. So if it's like even if it's equal to what the partition function returns, you still have to recurse more until you hit the base case.
Yeah, which is I think what I was saying with the middle element. Even if you found it, you still have to make sure because there might be one more. I think is what they're just trying to say.
That's actually
Yeah.
the funny
Random
part.
thought. Sorry.
What I figured out was that if you run the partition function twice, it does what it says it should do. So far, with all of my okay, I don't fully know that because my kth least element has not passed his tests. But when I was running it on my own, it would fail if I only ran partition once to try and get that sort. But if I ran it twice, it worked fine. Just for the stuff that I was doing, though. That's not confirmed for anything else that was going on. That is the link to what.
So
that's
maybe, just maybe, you might be stopping when you find the first K, which you shouldn't be doing, and that's if you have a certain array that's not that big, it wouldn't be a problem. But I think for bigger arrays where you have multiple like pivots or multiple values of the pivot you have, it could be a problem. You understand what I mean? Maybe just your test cases weren't like, you didn't test all the cases, basically, is what I'm trying to say. You understand what I mean?
Could be. I think it's probably something
I might
like
test
that.
it with
Yeah.
bigger arrays and having the same pivot, right? I will look like what pivot my function chooses and try to do the same value. Of course, it can change the pivot, but I will try to see how my find kth elements handles the fact that there are multiple values for the pivot, right? Because that's like the trickiest part. You need like that happens basically. Otherwise, it would be simpler, right? If it was ascending, it would have been easier than non-descending because we wouldn't have equal things. We only have one kth element, but we need to find the least, basically.
Were you able to puppet?
No.
There's a way to get it to up, even if if the partition doesn't work for the kth least element. You already have the sort function working.
Yeah. You
So,
can
I
just do
mean-
that, sort it, and then give what the thing was, and it works fine.
Well, it's
He
not.
said, I
advisable-
know he said, like, don't do that, but does it work?
I think in my work, to like I said, pop it, but if you're trying to like dog it, then you can't do that because it wouldn't be quick enough.
Doesn't really matter, honestly, at this point. I already missed the cutoff. He's going to give me 75% anyway, so, might as well fully see how it works. I think my main issue is I'm approaching it from the wrong direction because of the whole trying to get the partition to actually fully give me everything to the left is less and everything to the right is greater.
Right.
Running it twice
I
sort of
think
worked.
maybe your sorting condition, because it's not exactly like binary search again. Binary search, like I said, it's not ascending, it's ascending, and we have non-descending, in binary search. If I'm not mistaken, in binary search, we assume we don't have the same element twice. Am I right? Because it says ascending order. I think so. I'm not sure, but what I'm trying to say is maybe your stop condition is not not what it should be.
Wait, are you
Okay.
so are you saying in this you have to run partition twice for it to work in this specific function?
In the one that I was doing, yeah, if you do partition once, you get the issue where it doesn't always put everything less than on the left and everything greater than on the right. But in the few arrays that were no greater than like 10 to 12-ish elements that I was running them on, if you ran partition twice, it fully did the thing that I wanted it to do, where the pivot, it'd have the pivot and everything to the left is lesser, everything to the right is greater.
Oh, you could be returning the wrong pivot, because you know how it says if it's even, they return this, if it's odd, return that. Maybe that check is not correct, and that's maybe why for even size it works, but uneven it doesn't work, or the opposite.
Yeah, you need to check. There's one thing you can check, because you should check the conditions for which path you're taking to recurse down, because that sounds like maybe you're stopping too early or not soon enough.
Right,
Different for
or
even versus odd.
right, because if it's let me read what he said.
I think you're confusing what like you return from partition, because it doesn't have to be the pivot value.
Say that a
Right,
little
but
bit
it's in the
louder.
one after. This was-
You're not supposed to return the pivot value, as far as I know.
No,
for a
you don't.
partition.
Oh yeah, I'm saying like I think you might be.
I mean, not the
confusing-
value, the index of it. So I'm saying which one.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the pivot one.
What were you saying, John?
Yeah, I'm saying like you might be confusing that because because the way you return from partition doesn't have to be the pivot value. Because I don't know, did you read the low stuff modules?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's the way he did it is like a little different. Well, I mean, Tejas kind of mentioned it in his post, but it's like a little bit different the way he wants us to do it compared to like, because like what you return from partition isn't necessarily the pivot value.
Right, I think it's the next one, right? Is the
But you're
index of the next
okay.
one?
So I guess I
I mean,
probably have
it could be
to.
the pivot value, but it doesn't.
Say it again?
The return value should be it's already in the spec what you should return.
It's KS least element. Yeah, I would.
No, I mean for I'm talking about for partition.
Oh.
What should be
Partition.
returned is already mentioned in the spec, and it's
Oh yeah.
consistent.
Did say that. It was like second, the one to the right of it. Was that what that was supposed to be? Well, I did partition
Yeah.
already though, and it worked.
Maybe it's luck. I don't know.
That's why. I mean, I'd be an awfully lucky person at this point. But I guess what you guys are saying is the angle that I'm looking at this from doesn't seem to really be the right one.
I feel
mean-
like you're overcomplicating it.
Possibly. I mean, well, yeah, definitely. Is it
Yeah, it is like 10 lines of code you can get it done in.
Yeah, it's
Like,
like,
it's very
yeah.
small.
yeah, you
Huh.
just have to get the conditions right. That's the only thing. Like check your stopping conditions and you know. And you know, if you look at the left, if it equals to or not equals to, then maybe the smaller equal to or bigger equal to might be missing, you know.
You want to check if it's not going beyond logical bounds. If it's going to go beyond the logical bounds, then it'll break. So just think about where the indices should be at every loop.
okay?
Yeah, that's what I would say, and everything else is in the spec. Just follow it.
Yeah, the only thing that's not in the spec is the stopping condition. So apparently, so I would probably.
That's there, I think.
I will check that, then I will make sure that, you know, I remember, I think it was partition where he said, like, where you have to think if it's odd or even, what will be the median, maybe, or no, was that for the median? Am I confusing something?
That was for median.
Okay, then never mind. But
I will also say it's also extremely similar to QSort, but with the condition that you only have to search one half of the subvectors.
Oh. Extremely similar to Q sort. I can work with that. But I guess
You,
from
you
what
think
you
about
guys
what you're doing and you're sorting it. You're still sorting it however you did previously, except once it's sorted, right? That's what the whole thing of the spec is saying. Like you take the entire vector and you partition it to start sorting it, right? But rather than keep sorting both sides, you know that it's either going to be less than your current value or greater than your current value. So then you just have to continue sorting one side.
But from what the partition has done so far, we don't know for certain that what goes on to the left of the partition is going to be fully less than.
But you're looking at your pivot index compared to the kth least.
Okay.
That's how it continues to, that's how you continue to choose which side to sort.
Wait, are you talking about get cave least or partition?
Kth least.
Find kth
Oh.
least.
Yeah.
Question. Does
Yeah,
the
that's the
median
thing
function?
about like this quest as well. Like the partition determines everything. Like you might pass the partition, but then the partition might mess your find kth element, even though the test worked fine. So it can be a bit tricky. Yeah. I would say try and maybe read my Reddit post. I just made a Reddit post by it. It might help, it might not. But yeah, I will check the stopping conditions and the partitioning themselves as well.
Okay, thank you. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was just wondering, does the median function account for if the vector has an even number of elements? Because when there's a median, you have to take the average of the middle two.
It says that
It says in
high
the
median
spec to
element
take the second
that-
higher
yeah.
value.
Yeah.
the
It says
right
what?
side takes the
In
second.
the spec, it says to take the.
um,
Yeah, you can talk. That's all you.
just
Oh.
basically divide the vector by 2 and then return that element, that index.
Yeah,
You don't have to
divide
do
it
any
by
arithmetic.
two, right? It rounds it down, which is what the spec wants. So if you divide it by just divide by 2, you should be good.
Yeah, that worked as well, but I don't think that's I mean, it's not actually the median.
It's not, but it's
No.
just what the spec
I mean,
wants.
I guess it can be either one, you know. Like it can be the left if you round it up or down, it just depends, you know. But it works for here. All right, I have to go, guys. So hopefully I helped a bit. Everyone.
Yeah, me
Okay.
too.
Thank you.
See you
Yeah.
next week.
You guys.
Much appreciated.
I'll also go. See you.
I just had a quick question, like regarding quest 8. For some reason, I'm passing like the lowest, like I'm passing the get k element, like the ref time. Has anybody here completed quest 8 or? So I'm passing
Yeah.
the lowest, like the ref time by like 0.01, but it's still not giving me. It's just saying yippee, and it's not giving me any points.
There's no point for it.
Oh really? Oh,
Yeah.
because like so there's 5 trophies for 2 string.
Yes. And then John found some secret trophy that none of us have found.
Like how many is there in total?
Uh,
Isn't there 27 in total?
Yeah, I forget. It was in the. It was somebody had mentioned it the other day. Let me see what the other trophy was because I laughed that it was going to make me lose my mind because I couldn't find it either.
Because I have 22 without the 2 string.
Oh, then if you do 2 string, you should be good because oh my
Because I
God,
spent
there's
like
so
2
many.
hours on the ref time. Like I don't know why, because I thought I would get trophies, but I guess I'm not.
Yeah, there's one for size apparently too.
Yeah, I got
which
size. I got size.
do you know what that was checking?
Just the correct, like make sure your size is correct after percolate down and percolate up. Like make sure the size though is correct. The heap size.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the size would have to be correct to pass.
Well, yeah, I'll figure out
yeah.
my two string.
Yeah, the 2 string should
Yeah.
get you
It's like,
set up
that was-
then.
Yeah, because I wasted like 2 hours trying to increase my ref speed.
Yeah, no, the ref doesn't give one from what I've
Yeah.
from what I've seen.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Cool. Yep.
Yeah, see you
I'll see you
next
next
week.
week.